Hi, Misha here, and we were finally able to get out to the range with one of these. These came in last November. I already had them in a few videos, imported by San Imports, formerly JDI. This is the next version of the SG-551P. We've had the 551SB with the 14.3, and we've had the 551LB with the 17.8 inch barrel. But now we've had this version that's kind of intermediate with about a 16.1 inch barrel. Keep in mind that does include this flash hider. This is not permanently attached. This is part of the barrel. It was machined as all one chunk. But been meaning to get this out to the range, but life kind of got in the way. But enough with that. Let's cut over and show the first shots out of this gun ever, and then we're going to come back and talk about the batch of guns coming in March from San Imports and visit with a special guest. The SIG 551 with the 16-inch barrel, first shot.
What do you think?
Soft recoil. So the first mag, not surprisingly, went well. And as I'm sure you know, the P in the name, SG-551P, stands for pistol. That's how these are imported. They have an end plate. But once owned and in private hands, it is perfectly alright to put a stock on because the barrel's over 16. And there you go. Because, well, you can put an arm brace on these. They do have an arm brace adapter, especially that's good for the short ones. But why not? No surprises. If you're on this channel, I think you know the features and makeup of these guns. This configuration, I've often called it the Preban style, namely because of this barrel. The 16-inch barrel is special for the American market. It's essentially the 14.3, just extended out 1.8 inches. Still has the two-way gas regulator, flip-up sight, standard handguards. This is obviously the gray version with the steel lower, and these come in with black handguards and pistol grip. They also come in with the diopter, rear sight, and they have the Swiss crest, all that good stuff. That's the configuration. There's also a black version, and strangely enough, it came with green furniture. I do not know why. How it happened. So with that said, let's put another mag through her. Let's try the silver bear out of the SIG. Even held open on this one.
Yeah, that seemed to like it okay.
And that was on the standard gas setting, not the adverse too. Yeah, long stroke piston. So, yeah, the first mags, not surprisingly, ran quite well. I want to talk with you a minute. I'm going to set this down because, well, it's not the heaviest gun in the world. It's also not the lightest. But yeah, another batch of Swiss guns just came in. We talked about it being expected when we did our last Q&A. They're here and ready to go. In fact, we'll be driving down and, as I announced on Patreon, doing another kind of interview, Q&A, whatever, shoot the crap with the Dave Wagner down there. So that should be fun. If you're interested, you can go over and check out the thread on the Patreon page and put your own questions in. So they're here. Some pretty neat things. About 130-ish, 150 at most guns came in, so much smaller batch than in November. Probably of the most interest people have asked me about are the next 308 7.62 NATO guns, known as the SG-551. We've had them in before. What's a little neat about these, they're called the SOCOM edition. They have a 16-inch barrel. They come with a quad rail from the factory, metal quad rail. And they have a gray Cerakote finish, upper and lower. Now the lower is still aluminum alloy. Keep in mind that is Swiss Mil-Spec now, that lower. In fact, they've never done a steel lower for the 308 version anyway. But it's a unique configuration, and Swiss collectors sure like that. By the way, speaking of, it does have a Picatinny rail. They've never actually done a set of diopters, like you see on this gun, for the 7.62, the 308. These diopters are specifically calibrated for 5.6 GP90, their version of 5.56. I digress. Anyway, those came in. People seem really excited about those. Another batch of SG-553Rs came in, although not the full batch. I think 40 were initially ordered. Only about half came in, so the other half will be coming in a bit. Of course, that's the Russian model. It's pretty much like last time, except it seems like they've gone back to the green furniture with black finish. Otherwise, it'll be the 11.9-inch barrel with removable muzzle device. So suppressor fans, you're in luck. And then the bulk of the order are variations on the SG-553. There are 3 versions, SB, which are the 8.9-inch two-piece barrel. The first 2 have the traditional 14x1 thread. One is Picatinny rail, black metal, steel lower, which is interesting. You don't see many guns with black steel lowers, and green furniture. The other one is what is a particular interest to me. It's all black, upper, lower, handguards, and steel lower, and it has diopter sights. And these are all threaded 14x1, like I said, so hopefully they'll have the traditional commando flash hider on them. Those are, of course, in 5.56. The third SB version has an alloy lower, Picatinny upper, but what makes it unique, it's gray Cerakote, the first time they've done a Cerakote 5.53 like that. The first 2 will have the 1 in 10 twist. This one has the 1 in 7, so a little more compatible with American ammo. It will also be threaded half by 28, so suppressor fans, there's maybe a little better there, although both are pretty standard. And then kind of the final 5.53 is an LB, that would be the 13.6-inch barrel. And it's neat because it's all black, and it has the lower that takes the US magazines. They call it the AL US, or as my speech says, the Alice. But it's Stenag lower, and it's all modular. But that was kind of neat, mostly because we weren't expecting them. So unexpected more guns is always a good thing. As of right now, that's what I know has come in. There have been some more accessories. One thing that did not come in, at least not fully, were the anniversary editions, the 5.51 anniversaries. The guns themselves made it, but all the accessories are not quite ready yet, including like the special coin and everything. So those are going to be yet again delayed. Annoying, I know. Yeah. But I just wanted to take that opportunity to kind of break in the video and talk about that. As Rob would say, enough of the bullshit talk. Let's run another mag through this. In fact, let's let J-Ro have a chance at it, see what he thinks. I don't think he's ever fired one of these in 5.56 before, although he has shot it in 7.62 NATO. J-Ro's very first try with one of the 5.56 SIG.
Yeah, it's pretty soft shooting. You go down range and take a look at groupings, but you know, just for popping them off pretty quick, it's flat. You know, give it that.
I think that was Russian ammo anyway, so probably not known for the best groups. So I think, for one thing, I know for a fact it ran reliably for J-Ro, and I think he was pretty much acknowledging that the sights were a lot like HKs, for better or worse, and military sights, but usable ones. I think he mentioned the trigger was acceptable to good, not a target trigger, and you know, things of that nature. But generally speaking, military gun. I think secretly deep down he likes it more than ARs. He just never admit it. One thing I wanted to talk about before we move on to more shooting, magazine variations, because I've got 5 different types here, even though they're all totally interchangeable. There are questions, so yeah, why don't we take a minute and just kind of look at the mags that's used over the years. So they started off with a 20-round mag, has these notches to lock them together jungle style. I do remember that was something J-Ro commented and thought was kind of neat. It's very 80s, but kind of cool because 2 mags are to be issued with a gun. And they were made of this nice polymer. Some people think they feel cheap, but the truth is, because this is Swiss and SIG we're talking about, these were tested to hell and back in all kinds of environments, including an extreme deep freeze chamber. In fact, Dave talked about that last year on our first interview, the crazy climate chamber they have. They dropped them, loaded, unloaded. So it's deceptively cheap, but it's actually very well tested Mil-Spec polymer. And it kind of has this unique hue to it. Of course, when the assault weapons ban came through in the USA, mags made after September of '94 had to start getting marked law enforcement only. So there are some around here. I don't know if there's anything on this side different, but yeah, there's a generation that have LEO markings on. A lot of these were sold as surplus from Louisiana. And kind of are collectible now for a strange reason. I think people just like LE marked stuff. But of course, that's no longer required. As the series kind of stopped being just for the Swiss military and was more internationally marketed, SIG introduced a new 30-round mag in the 90s. Although they didn't really start to be common till the 2000s. It is just an enlarged version, including having the studs as the 20-rounder, although it is actually made out of a different polymer. This is a little more squishy, I'm sure because it's a longer body compared to this. This one you can squish a little bit, this one but it's also 20 years development in polymer technology. And this is the standard today, although they still do make 20s. Probably the newest version is this, the same mag, but they took the studs off. And that's because while they are neat and let them clip together, they do make them hard to get in and out of a pouch. First, you have to have a pouch that's wider. Second, that's literally hooks for it to catch on in the pouch. So some users have requested without the studs. And you're starting to see more and more of these in the USA in the last just couple of years. And it's only slightly bigger than an AR mag. Now, of course, an AR mag is straight up, it's a drop free. This is rock and lock. But of course, it's not AK. It does have a bolt hold open, all those features, and it is extremely lightweight. And finally, we've got a modern 20-rounder. I usually only see these shipping with target guns like the Bloom edition. And it's made out of the newer style polymer as compared to the classic one here. You might be able to tell a little bit of a difference. I think the coloration may be a little different too. So they still are making 20s and they are slightly different. These mags also have date codes on them from the factory when they were made. But I know a lot of you're into the shooting. So with that, let's get back to the range. And let's punish this gun with some crummy Russian ammo and see if it'll cycle or not. And now PPU again in the 551. More felt pretty cool than the Russian crap. But it works. I'm surprised, not surprised that it did actually run. That ammo is pretty crummy. It even had some corrosion on the cases, but it's a military gun and it is using a Kalashnikov-inspired system with a long stroke piston and 2-lug bolt. And again, that was on the standard setting, not even the adverse. So yeah, it's doing really well. We've had a PPU, a couple other brands. I think there was some SIG in there at some time, brand ammo. Let's toss it back over to J-Row one more time. And now J-Row again with the SIG. Alrighty, so we're having a good day. A couple hundred rounds, no problems, not expecting any, frankly. And I do want to talk about barrel length. Like I said, this is the 16-inch version. It's an intermediate. Brought out my trusty LB version here. But you know what? I think by now you've been patient long enough and you've listened to me ramble. Let's cut over to our guest today, Henry from 9-Hole. Back in November when these came in, he very eagerly ordered one. Now, interestingly, he wanted the 550 version, the 20.8-inch gun. I suggested, since he's more of a shooter than a pure collector, think about a 551. I've gone on record as saying, in terms of shooting, it's my favorite configuration. And so I convinced him. But was it the right call? Because, you know, these are not cheap guns. So if I steered him wrong, those things end friendships. But no, I asked him if he'd like to contribute. He had originally offered just out of the blue to shooting footage, and I said it'd be great if you could give your 2 cents in how you're liking your 551. So with no further ado, Henry from 9-Hole.
Grüezi. Hope you're having a good evening. This is my SG-551. And this is in my possession after a lot of inspirational talks, actually nerding out with my friend Calvin over at Firepower United, and then talking to Mish about his wares in his store and seeing that he has some 551s. And initially I was a little bit hesitant because you'll see that this barrel right here, fold the stock. You'll see that this barrel right here is not the short barrel, the SB, which has the flash hider right here, tucked right in front, what Robert De Niro used in Ronin, or the long barrel, which comes out around here and has a little grenade nub in the middle. This is a 551 with a unique sort of US 1-to-7 twist barrel on it. And I was hesitant initially. But talking to Mish and him just figuring out that I'm actually going to shoot this and want to enjoy it, he recommended me to go with this one because it's a barrel that makes sense. It's in the color tone that I like. Since I don't have any Gewehrpatrone 90, the GP90 ammunition, this is in 1.7 and should handle any US ammunition perfectly fine. 5.56, 223, 55 grains, 62 grains. And so I took a leap of faith, a couple $1,000 leap of faith, and ended up with this one. And I must say, I've shot a few 5.5X series, 5.50, 5.50-1s, and actually this one, I don't know, I cannot definitively say this, but this one seems to shoot the best with general ammunition that we have available. Now, that's not very scientific. This is a sample of one. But needless to say, an extremely reliable, gas-operated, long-stroke, Swiss-made, semi-automatic rifle that shoots fairly accurate, very accurately, has some of the best combat sights that one could get, in my opinion. If you know H&K sights, if you are a G3, HK33, or G3 or HK33 shooter, these will feel right at home for you, in my opinion. Some of the best combat sighting systems. Foldable into a manageable package. I would say the one thing that people would complain about this is if you had to, I don't know, skip a mortgage payment to buy one of these, then you would probably be pretty upset because you'd be eating ramen for the rest of your year and facing a divorce. I am not in I am not in that position, so I'm very happy. Doesn't mean that I could buy these and stock my closet without obtaining a divorce from my wife, but I'm very happy with this. And if you are in a position to purchase one of these, I would highly recommend it. You don't buy these because there is nothing else that could do its job. This does its job exceedingly well. It does have a substitute if you do need it, but you buy one of these because you appreciate the craftsmanship, you appreciate the lineage, and it is an interesting firearm. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Alors, did I have anything else? I don't think so. I suppose in that case, we will see you on the range. Ciao.
Really appreciate Henry chiming in. Like I said, it was, yeah, it's good. It's good. And to end with barrel talk here. Like I said, this is our 16-incher. I don't have a 14.3 of my own at the moment, but I do have a tape measure to show you the difference. It's set at about the 1/8 difference. The edge of this would be where the flash hider would end, roughly speaking, on a SB. So that tells you just about how much they had to extend it out. And again, this is something they originally did in the 80s. They just really just took the SB and brought it out less than 2 inches. We didn't actually have the LB model here in the 80s. The SB was the original Carbine. This came about in the 90s, and it was done to mount a rifle grenade or a bayonet. This has the NATO bayonet lug on it, but you can have the Swiss. And so it's actually longer than 16 inches. This is 17.8, including the flash hider. So let me grab a bayonet. So even with this extended 16-inch barrel, you can see the bayonet, the lug would be here if this had a lug on it, would hang out front by nearly an inch with the bayonet lug. So obviously the 14.3 would be way too short. And there's not a grenade bulge either. Going to the LB here, and again this one has the NATO lug, we have plenty of room for this bayonet or any other Swiss or Stanag. This is easier to do when you're not upside down. And as you see, the flash hider should actually be in front of the ring, not behind it. And it's not even close to the end. So that's the benefit of the LB and the 16-inch kind of in between. It's longer for the grenade and the bayonet, but it is a little heavier. And nearly 2 inches longer. So the 16 here does have a good feel to it. And while it is a longer barrel, since we don't have like the grenade bulge, it feels more like the SB in my hands to me. And shooting, it feels more like shooting an SB than shooting an LB, for better or worse. I'm sure you do get a little extra oomph out of the LB, but as you heard Henry, he's getting pretty good results even out of his 16-inch barrel, keeping in mind that a good chunk of that's the flash hider, so this is more like a 14.5-inch barrel, give or take. And that's about it, folks. Again, these are unique guns and always kind of fun to do videos on. And it's great that importation is continuing as we get into 2022. As with any import, not to keep, eventually it'll end. Either Swiss imports here will close, or maybe SIG will close. Maybe the Swiss government will change their mind. Maybe the American government will do something. Maybe they'll just quit making the 550 because it's an older design. Who knows? But, make hay while the sun shines. So with that, that's why we went out today. Appreciate J-Ro helping. Appreciate Henry pitching in. Hope he enjoys his 551 for years, decades to come. Maybe his kids too. But if you own a gun like this, Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't and like to know more about the history and mechanics and disassembly, plenty of videos on this channel, so check those out. As always, if you could, like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, Broken Record, please check out the link to our Patreon page. Also, if you'd like to ask Dave a question, check out the Patreon page. Although, maybe by the time this goes out, we'll do our best to try to get this out before we visit with Dave. That would be the best, but, you know, time and work. But anyway, regardless, I greatly appreciate you tuning in. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.